Please welcome our panelists. This conversation starts with a simple but urgent question. Are we asking early career talent to adapt to broken systems, or are we ready to redesign the systems themselves?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I want to keep some energy from the cookies, from the coffee. We're going to keep this going. We are going to start very quickly with a rapid fire with my amazing panel here. All right. Are you all ready? I want everybody to come closer to me. This is my general call to action is for everyone to come closer and bring your energy in for us. All right. Here's the question. I want to start with rapid fire temperature check in 30 seconds or less. What's the biggest barrier to early career professionals that they face when entering the workforce, and where do the gaps in support or unclear expectations show up the most? Deana, we are starting. Oh, no? Laura's going to start.
We'll start.
Laura's going to start.
So, as we see it, the biggest barrier for early talent isn't the talent program. Isn't the talent problem. It is a design problem. First generation professionals like me arrive with tremendous drive, persistence, and capability. But the inner organizations that were built around informal networks, unwritten rules, and inherited knowledge. The gaps show up most in career pathways that aren't transparent, sponsorship that happens offline, and onboarding that assumes context that people don't have. When we fix the design, talent, which was always there, finally has the conditions it needs to flourish.
I'll add to that I think, when we look at early talent coming in, a lot of it has to do with access and exposure. So a lot of our students or early talent that come into our companies, there are so many unwritten rules, so many norms, that cultural norms we have in our companies. When they're in school, they're learning the academics, but they're not learning how to be leaders as soon as they walk in the door. So I think having mentorship, sponsorship, but then reaching down into them when they are freshmen and when they're sophomores, and making sure that our companies are digging into getting to know these students then, so that as they graduate and come into our companies, they come better prepared. Making sure that we have good onboarding with our interns, with our early talent, even our young professionals. I don't think it stops after they intern for the summer or they come into an early talent rotational program. We have to keep nurturing and digging in with them for at least the first 5 to 7 years of their career. As I see it, I've had students to come through that have imposter syndrome. They're first generation college students. Neither one of their parents worked in corporate. Now they work for a bank. Anyone that works in banking knows that's not easy. Depends on which bank you work for. But it is something that I think in every industry that you see when it comes to early talent coming into our companies. And so we have to be very intentional and creative with how we nurture these young professionals who at some point will sit in our shoes. Thinking about what our journey was then and what our journey is today, and some of the wonderful things that have happened in our career, but some of the hurdles and challenges that we face, they are facing that at, I would say, sometimes even double, given AI and social media and all the things. Having a college student personally, I'm trying to prepare her for her first real internship this summer. And not only what to wear, what's appropriate, but on time is early, right? Because everybody else leaves at 4, doesn't mean you get to leave at 4. I mean, it's those kinds of simple things that some of our students don't know. They think because you've walked out at 4:30, well, you've worked 30 years and earned that privilege to walk out at 4 o'clock. You just got here, So just making sure that we're really investing in our early talent. I think that's important.
Yeah, I echo what Laura and Natalie shared. In higher ed, we call it the hidden curriculum. This might be a familiar term with you all. And it's a lot of unwritten rules, or even to the point of an acronym being used or shorthand. Right, for this building, does it have a different name? And if I didn't know what the different name was, would I arrive here on time or at an appropriate time to prepare to participate on the panel? It's navigating a system without a map. And that's an incredible barrier, as you can imagine. Where's the door? How do I get it on the other side if I have no idea where the door is? So I think confronting language we use is an important first step to confronting those barriers. I appreciate so much that you framed the stakes, especially what you said about this is the next generation that's going to one day sit in our shoes. The stakes are very high for us to nurture them, grow them, develop them, encourage them. So I want to start with Deana. What is working? So I'll take a little step back. Our organization works with colleges and universities to improve their systems to better support first generation students. We were first established in 2017, an initiative of NASPA, which is a member-based association in student affairs, and the Suter Foundation, which is a private family foundation. And so the core of our work is supporting these institutions because over half of all college-going students identify as first gen, which is defined as, say that again, over half. Over half of all college-going students, and that's underreported because it's often tied to Pell eligibility, how many students are actually completing the FAFSA application to then just to become eligible for Pell. Anyway, that that amounts to approximately 8.2 million students with a completion rate of 24% in 6 years, compared to continuing generation students that are completing at 59%. That is a considerable difference. So our organization,
That's even before they get into the workforce, which we're here talking about today. This isn't just getting them into college.
correct.
Through college.
Correct. And so we create resources, we lead original research, we publish publications, and we're working with our institutions grounded in continuous improvement to help them map what is their improvement project. How are they going to address strategic enrollment? How are they going to address community building and sense of belonging? So we have over 470 colleges and universities. And our most recent cohort, they started in the academic year 2019-2020. They're reporting completion rates of 58.4%. That is more than 2 times the national average.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
they should be commended because that's
Yes.
significant. They are preparing who you will hire at a much higher rate than the national average. And so in thinking about what is working is creating connections with employers that have made the commitment to what Laura was saying, redesign the opportunity, redesign the environment. We take a student-ready approach, which was coined by Dr. Tia Brown McNair, and we're working with TIAA to create an employer-ready framework, which is grounded in the age-old assumption of what you have, how you are ready to be successful, how you're an employee ready versus confronting that narrative and asking for the responsibility narrative to be flipped, where employers are responsible for creating an accessible environment that's inclusive to who their workforce is. And that's first gen professionals. Thank you. That's amazing. Laura, I want to pop over to you. What are some of the very concrete things that TIAA has done? Thank you for the question. One of the most meaningful shifts that we made was examining where the unwritten rules are that are quietly creating barriers. So one concrete example of that is the Thrive Career Development Program, which we created for early talent who had not experienced mobility in the previous 3 years. So Thrive is built on a simple design principle. If career acceleration has historically happened through inherited information, then our job is to make those things explicit and structured, as Deana was saying. The program targets high-performing individual contributors in the early years of their career, people who are already demonstrating strong performance and discretionary effort. And it gives them the infrastructure to match their ambition. So the program includes a 3-day immersion experience. We have 6 expert-led webinars on subjects like executive presence, managing up, career self-authoring, and 4 one-on-one sessions with ICF certified career coaches. We also offer monthly peer pods for sustained community as well as accountability. And the design intent behind this is very clear. If you align the right talent with the right roles earlier in their careers, to Natalie's point, by removing the structural barriers that slow the momentum down. So for first generation professionals, having that scaffolding explicitly built for them rather than hoping they'll find it along the way changes the trajectory entirely. So for our Thrive participants, they experienced 36% mobility after 12 months and 45% mobility after 24 months.
That's astounding.
It works.
That's great. Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm sure that they appreciate the customized programming. I mean, I really think that that's what sounds like it's making the deepest impact. There's a lot of thought that went into that. Natalie, I want to ask you. You underlined in your intro how hard it is, especially when you're in banking. and so let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about what has Ally done to make it a little easier, a little less opaque.
Absolutely. Well, first, I'm not sure if everyone even knows who Ally is. So we're one of the largest, home of the largest digital financial services company. Most folks know if you are enjoying soccer, the Charlotte FC team has Ally on the front of it, or some of our fun commercials that we have out there, or NASCAR. But one of the things that we started about 7 years ago, which is why my good friend Laura here said, you got to talk about it. In my prior role, I led charitable giving for Ally, and we partnered with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund to create a entrepreneur pitch competition called Mobiles in the Making. That competition for HBCU students was specifically designed at that time to provide economic mobility ideas. The students would pitch ideas around economic mobility for a particular industry. And along the way, these students are learning, it's really intended for us to do, give them access, exposure, and opportunity. So they're learning about how to build a business plan. They're learning financial education. So we take them through a very rigorous learning program. But what we found, now this is, year 7, we've given out 1.4 million in scholarships, 370 students have gone through. We've hired about 52 of these students matriculated through and in and out of Ally. But what we found was, although we guaranteed internships for the winning team, we end up getting more students offers and interns over the years. So starting out, our former CEO gave everybody the opportunity to intern. So over, almost 20 students interned that first year, through COVID and, peaks and valleys over the last 7 years. But this past year, we had 16% of the students to come and intern. So we have about 8 of them coming, of the 50 coming through. But we still have several of these young professionals working for us today. And although we are now thinking to reimagine the program for 2027, what we're to make it more specific to workforce, but what we've found is as we've gotten them in, we've assigned them mentors. So every student that has come through that program has a mentor through our employee resource group, particularly our Black Employee Resource Group, but also a mentor in the business, so that not only are they having a mentor that is in their line of work or in their business that can understand and help them navigate some of the things we just talked about that they don't know, or to help identify the imposter syndrome if they see it in a meeting, those kinds of things. They also have another mentor that's a part of an ERG, one with the effort to help them get a part of these ERGs, right? Because there's a lot of learning and skills that they can get at being a part of an ERG, but also they're with someone that may have also gone to an HBCU or someone of likeness that they may also feel comfortable with learning from, or could hear from them what other people may not tell them, right? The reality of that, right? The reality of sometimes. Wow, was that God speaking? Did I say something that God was like, yeah? But there's some truth in there somewhere. But it's important, right? It's important. All right.
Good. Yes, underline.
Thank you, sound man. Working now in the diversity, inclusion, and belonging space. But I've always known this. It's always good, and I tell students to have a board of directors of every background, every level within the organization. But there are going to be mentors that are going to say stuff to you that you're going to receive or going to tell you something, the truth, right? The hard truth. Where others may tell it, but may say it in a softer way, and you don't get what they're really trying to tell you. So that a part of our moguls journey has been one that everything has to evolve. We certainly are going to expand the program, make it regionally focused. We're looking to really focus on solutions that the students can do to serve Ally. But at the end of the day, when they are coming through this program and they are now young professionals at Ally, we're making sure that them, along with our other early talent, partnering with our TA and early talent team, that the students have sustainable learning and development throughout their time with us. So our employee resource, we have about 60% of our employees are a part of these employee resource groups. We have, record numbers and volunteerism that goes on at Ally. So we want to make sure that these young professionals become a part of the fabric of who we are as a company. And we've seen some success with that. To get from an intern into our early talent program, Crystal, it's we place maybe 80% of our interns into early talent. So for us, that's an exciting stat to have, because now we know that these students are thriving, not just with their 10 weeks with us, but they're wanting to come back and they're wanting to stay longer.
Well, you mentioned imposter syndrome as one of the challenges that folks are facing. And when it sounds like what you're describing is a great sense of belonging and connection and togetherness. And so maybe the imposter syndrome was there at the end, but I bet that if you were checking the numbers as you go along, when you've woven them so deeply into the fabric of what you're doing, you don't feel like the outsider anymore. You feel like you're on the inside, that you're making the rules and the culture.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, we had a student that came through our moguls program last summer. I'll tell this quick story. Who first generation college student, never worked in corporate, parents never worked in corporate, and had and was in HR and really struggling with imposter syndrome. To the point I wore braids. Usually my summer hair is braids, and so I came in the office with braids, and she saw me. She's like, "Oh, we can wear braids." And I'm like, "Yeah, girl, it's your hair."
But that's so human. It's such a deeply personal connection.
And finally, after about maybe, I don't know, it took her about 3 weeks or so. It took her that long to really start to open up, when she started to see that she could be herself. I mean, again, this is a young lady from, I think she's from Louisiana. I mean, she smart, just has so much going for her, but in a meeting wouldn't really say anything. And so, we saw the butterfly come out of the cocoon when she got comfortable and saw that culturally she could be who she is. And that her personality is what we hired her for, and what was in her brain, not necessarily what her hair looked like. So,
well, thank you for leading the way on that. That's amazing. I love to hear these success stories and the concrete tips that are working, but I want to talk about what are some of the ongoing pain points that you are feeling, particularly because this is a room of asks and offers. So, Deana, tell us a little more about what are some of the pain points and how can we help?
Yeah, I would imagine that if this room, we took a poll on how many of you felt that your employees were truly prepared to contribute to the workplace, and they demonstrated initiative and they demonstrated the skill sets, you might think differently than what your early talent would then self-reflect on how they're contributing. That's an incredible mismatch, right? That leads to tension, where the early talent believes they are contributing and the employer has a very different belief. And then at the middle is colleges and universities and their families of the students who attend believe that after you receive your 4 degree or maybe your graduate degree, that you're going to land a high earning job, right? With a pathway for success. Well, that's not always the case. There's work to be done. So I think that the opportunity is where we sit in the middle, where we work with our colleges and universities, and we're building relationships with organizations and companies to bridge what is a pretty big mismatch and pretty big gap to signal that first-gen students, first-gen professionals, that is who you want to hire. First-gen professionals are resilient. They have navigational capital, and they're ready to contribute. So I would say that that's a response to some of the challenges.
Thank you. I've just been given the signal that we get the hook off the stage. And so I want to go very quickly. Laura, what is the one thing you want everyone in this room to do?
I challenge you to go back and audit one of your talent processes. It could be your onboarding process. It could be communicating performance expectations, or even how sponsors in your organization are identified. And ask yourself, does the process work because of its intentional design, or does it work because of who somebody knows? And if it is the latter, but not the former, that is your cue to look at that process and be more intentional about the design and taking a look at it in terms of making one unwritten rule explicit and what that will do to transform your programs.
Amazing. Thank you. Last word.
Real quick. I would challenge you to ask the customer being your existing early talent. What did they need? What didn't they have when they came into the organization? What did they need? And what do they need today to be successful? Sometimes asking them themselves what they need can be, eye-opening. I think if you have certain schools that you are recruiting from, find the alumni, ask the alum that work for you, ask the alumni, what's your connection to the school? What do these students need coming from your institution? Because oftentimes it's the alumni that help you get in the door and the spaces and the deans and the offices and the classrooms. But also they know what they didn't get when they came out of that school, right? No matter what school you went to, you didn't come out getting everything you needed, right? Whether it was financial education or learning how to speak in front of an audience. So ask those early talent employees in your organization, what do they need and what do they think their students behind them need?
Thank you so much. Amazing panel. Thank you all for being such an awesome audience.